Good morning, boys and girls. It is time to start a brand new unit in math. We are starting Unit 6, and I'm really excited about it. To get our unit started off, we are actually going to be starting by counting our pockets on our clothing. What? Why are we doing that? Well, we're going to be counting our pockets on our clothing and comparing it with the friends in our classrooms, and we're going to be learning how to make a picture graph. We're going to be working on different types of graphs to start our unit, and this is one of my favorite things to do, so I'm so excited to get started. What you're going to want to do is take some time right now to look at your shirt, look at your pants. Maybe you are even wearing a light jacket in the classroom right now. If you brought a coat, just leave that on your chair. So right now, take a look at your shirt and your pants, and I would like for you to go ahead and count how many pockets you have on your clothing. You may pause the video to count away. Now that you have had some time to count all of the pockets on your clothing, you are going to pause the video and spend some time sharing your data or your information with your teacher. So she's probably going to be collecting some tallies for how many pockets you say you have on your clothing. Some of you may have had 0 pockets on your clothing, and that's okay. We're going to put that in our data collection. Data is just information that we collect, and then making a data graph is putting that information that we collected in a way that is easy to understand by lots of people. So go ahead and pause the video, share with your teacher the amount of pockets that you have on your clothing. Raise your hand. She will call on you one at a time. You may also go ahead and have a discussion about the amount of pockets that were in your classroom. How many of you had the least amount of pockets? Anybody have the most pockets in the classroom? Well, we're going to be using the tallies and the information, the data that your teacher collected, and we are going to be making 2 different kinds of graphs today. The first kind of graph we're going to use is something called a picture graph. A picture graph is writing down the information that you just collected, but using pictures to do it. In this case, today, we're going to use smiley faces to help us out. We're then going to take the same information, the same data about the pockets, and we're going to also put that into something that we call a bar graph. You may watch another video on the slide deck today to explain what a picture graph is and what a bar graph is up close. Go ahead and pause the video now. Make sure that you've had your discussions, and we're going to get ready to make a picture graph and a bar graph together. I will show you an example of how you do that. Your classroom's data may be different than another classroom's data, so you're going to be doing this mostly with the teacher that you have in your classroom. All right, let's go ahead and get started with making our picture graph, and then we will make our bar graph. What I'm showing you now is a page in your math journal, and this is where we are going to take the amount of tallies you made in your classroom for number of pockets, and we're going to change that into something that we call a picture graph. A picture graph is a graph representing your data, but using a picture. So this graph is called Number of Children with Pockets. We always want to look at the title of every single graph that we make because it's going to help us figure out how to make the graph. So it's called number of children with pockets. And at the bottom here, I see that the numbers represented down here are the number of pockets. So we're going to be making a smiley face, and this smiley face is representing one child. So if I had 2 kids in the classroom that had 2 pockets, this is what it would look like. I would draw a smile under the 2 pockets area. And if there were 2 children in the classroom that had 2 pockets, I would draw 2 smiles. So the smiles are representing each child in the classroom. If there was a person in your classroom that had 0 pockets, no pockets at all, maybe it was only one person that didn't have any pockets at all, I would put 1 smile where it says 0 pockets. Let's say that there is someone in your classroom, maybe there are 3 friends in the classroom that had 5 pockets on their clothing. So if there were 3 friends that had 5 pockets, I would draw 3 smiles where it says 5 pockets. So as I'm looking at this, I can see that there's 1 person in the class that has 0 pockets. There are 2 people in the class that have 2 pockets. There are 3 kids in the class that have 5 pockets. Let's say that the most pockets in the classroom were 4, okay? And there were 6 children in the classroom that had 4 pockets. How many smiles would I be making if there were 6 children in the class with 4 pockets? You're right, I would draw 6 smiles. And as we make this particular picture graph, we are going up, starting from the bottom and going up, depending on how many students have this amount of pockets. So this is what your graph would look like if this graph represented your classroom. And like I said, each classroom is going to look a little bit different. So you're going to be thinking about this with your teacher, and she is going to be helping you and guiding you through this as well. I just wanted to show you how the picture graph is done. Picture graphs not only they can not only go up, but picture graphs can also go to the side. In this particular graph, though, we're starting from the bottom and going up. Now, I also want to show you an example of a bar graph. So I am going to take the same information that I put on my picture graph, and I am going to make that into what we call a bar graph. So a bar graph is just another type of graph that people use to represent the data that they collect. So on my picture graph, I see that there was 1 student in the class who had 0 pockets. Now, in order to make this correct, I need to make sure that I'm reading all of the words on the page so that I know exactly how to make my bar graph. The title of this bar graph is Number of Children with Pockets. Here on the side, we call this the scale. These numbers on the left side here represent the number of children, okay? And then the numbers at the bottom represent the number of pockets. So I had 1 student with 0 pockets. So what that means is here are the pockets, 0 pockets, and I had 1 student that had 0 pockets in my classroom. So I'm going to draw my line. Here's Mrs. Clark's tip. You want to draw your line where you have the number of students for that particular amount of pockets, and then you want to color down. I always try to teach the kids in my class never to start at the bottom and count up, because sometimes we can go past the number accidentally that we need to stop at. So it is a great idea to draw a line at the number you need to start or that you need to finish at, and then color down instead of coloring up. So here you can see that I have represented this the same exact way. There was one student in my class with 0 pockets. And here on my bar graph, there is one student in the class with 0 pockets. So it's the same thing. Now we're going to look at the next piece of data that I collected. In my class, there were 2 students with only 2 pockets. So I am going to come along over here to the place where I see 2 pockets. I know that 2 of my students had 2 pockets, so I'm going to make sure that I draw my line at the number 2. And since this is a bar, we're going to make it look like a bar. That's why it's called a bar graph. It looks like a bar. And we're going to color down. So if you saw what I just did, I kind of framed in the area that I needed to color in. So here is what I just drew. So I've got 2 students with 2 pockets, 2 pockets, 2 students. It's the same exact thing. It's just a graph of a different way. All right, boys and girls, you are going to go ahead and do this activity with your teacher. I hope you have fun counting your pockets. See you tomorrow.